My name is Scott Meyer. I'd like to call the Finance and Human Resources Committee for Wednesday, May 6th to order at 5 o'clock. It looks like we have a full group. There is no youth and governance tonight. I would assume that's because they have not been sworn in, which they'll be sworn in at our next county board meeting. So we will not have the youth and governance statement tonight. Let's move on to public comments. Is there any public comments this evening? Anybody wishing to speak or address this board? Seeing none, we'll move on from public comments. Item number 4 on the agenda is approval of the minutes from the April 1st, 2026 committee meeting. And this will be action by the committee.
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes as presented. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes that are presented? Seeing none and hearing none, we will call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, the minutes are approved. Item number 5 is from the Finance Department, Director Zimmer with PFM Financial Advisors LLC in regards to the Racine County sale of the 2026A bonds. This is for information only for the group. Director Zimmer, do you want to introduce our guest?
Yes, thank
Thank
you. Before you is Kristen Hansen, who is director with PFM, our financial advisors. And this is in relation to the bond issuance that we did at the end of March for the behavioral health building.
Welcome.
Thank you. For the record, my name is Kristen Hansen, Director at PFM Financial Advisors, and I'll be walking through this PowerPoint that's on the screen. So just a refresher, slide 2. As you know, for a number of years now, you've been talking about these various capital projects. Back in 2024, the county board adopted the initial resolutions for a number of the capital projects, including the behavioral health building. In early 2026, it was determined that proceeds were needed to complete the behavioral health building. And as a result of that, skipping to slide 3, on February 10th, the county board did adopt a parameters resolution in the amount of 23 million GO promissory notes, giving the county executive, corporate counselor, the finance director to accept bids for the financing, assuming that certain parameters were met. Those parameters that indicated that the amount would not be more than 23 million. The debt service schedule basically remained the same as is presented on page 8 of this presentation, that the true interest cost rate was not more than 6%, indicated when principal and interest payments were due. And at the time that that parameters resolution was adopted, we had not set a call date or a redemption date, which says which bonds can be refinanced and when. And that part of that resolution indicates that the results are presented to the Finance and Committee and the county board. So that brings me here today. Page 4 just summarizes the bond rating. Because you had been in the market later in 2025, there was no need to have a rating call. The rating agency did send a questionnaire to Gwen to complete, to answer questions to determine the rating, and they affirmed your AA rating at the time. This just talks about basically restating some of the things you've seen in the rating report, reflecting your expanding manufacturer-based local economy, robust growth from new commercial and residential development, new sales tax increase, and proactive budgetary management, your stable tax base and the location between Milwaukee and Chicago, your manageable debt and pension profile, and acknowledgement of your various policies and practices, and the plan to adopt a debt management policy. Some of the credit challenges is, and some of these you have no control over. The economic indicators are weaker than national medians. Significant OPEB liability offsets some of the pension benefits, declining reserves, and basically saying that there's, at this point in time, a limited rating upside just due to the projected future borrowing. So then on March 4th, we took bids at 10 a.m. What's significant about this is that Saturday was when the war started. And so we were bringing both you and another community to market that week. So we kind of didn't know what was going to happen. We spent a lot of time on the phone with underwriters to find out if they were going to be interested in bidding on bonds, just knowing that there was a bit of volatility in the market. We had gone to market the day before for another community. They had a very successful bid after all of our conversations. And so we brought you to market the next day. And as you can see from the results, you received 8 bids. So despite kind of that uncertainty, we were very pleased with the result. You had 9 bidders sign up, 8 of them actually bid, and the best bid was Hilltop Securities out of Dallas, Texas, with a 3.748496%. What's interesting is when you sold your 2025 Bs in the fall, you had 9 bids, and the true interest rate was a 3.75. So based on the type of bid that you received, you did receive, because they have closed, just under 460,000 in premium, which is required to be deposited into your debt service fund to make payments toward your principal. And that parameters resolution did award to Hilltop Securities. The next slide, 6, just shows where the market has been over the last 10 years. The red line shows rates on 20-year maturities, and the blue line shows on 10-year maturities. So you can see kind of where we've been, and basically the very far right of the graph is what's been happening. You see those rates that went up, and that would be due to the current crisis in Iran. Page 7 does show that estimated debt service schedule that was included in your parameters resolution. We were using an estimated interest rate of 6%, kind of noting that that would have resulted in $17 million in interest costs. Page 8 shows the actual sale results with that 3.75 true interest cost rate, resulting in just under 11 million in interest costs. So based on what we were kind of the not to exceed interest rate, what you actually received was a difference of just over $6 million in interest costs. Slide 9 shows your existing levy before we sold the 2026 A's for the behavioral health building. Slide 10 shows the little yellow bars is the new debt, and then that line shows if you apply the annual offset with opioid funds to help offset your debt service payments, what that will look like. Slide 11 shows the existing mill rate plus the notes along with that line with the opioid settlement offset. Looks very similar to the debt service. And then page 12 just shows the steps that we went through to bring you here this evening with this presentation.
All right, questions for Kristen? Supervisor Miller?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a comment. I always think the results of these are somewhat of a report card on our economic health as viewed by the shrewd and unforgiving bond world. And to get 8 bids from 6 states, I think is good news.
Yes, especially in kind of in the market that was more uncertain than we've seen in a while.
Good. Any other questions, comments? All right, thank you, Kristen. Appreciate your presentation, and thank you for doing the work for the county.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, and then this will be reported to the county board at our next meeting.
Correct. Yep. Item number 6, is Racine County Economic Development Corporation. Andrea is here to talk to us about the 2026 Mancheaton Grant Quarterly Report. Welcome.
Thank you. Nice to see everybody. Okay, so first page is always just an overview of the program. As mentioned, I just want to give an update of Q1, where we're at. So far, we had 10,544 rolled over from last year, with the $75,000 allocation giving us 85,544 and 45 cents for approvals this year. So far, we have 68,114 approved out, and that's to 15 small businesses, 3 manufacturers, 2 veteran-owned, 10 women-owned, and 8 ethnic minority-owned businesses. Those 15 businesses are located, 8 of them in the city of Racine, 4 in Mount Pleasant, 2 in Caledonia, and 1 in Wind Point. This program also tries to retain and create jobs, and of those 15 businesses, they have committed to 77 and a half employees so far. So we always like to follow up after the first year to see if they've retained those businesses. Next, you can see over the years, the ethnic minority groups that this program has served. And just in conclusion, we're pleased of the numbers that have been approved so far for Q1, and we still have $17,430 left to approve out. You can see on the last page all the businesses that have been approved, where they're located, type of industry that they're in, how much they were awarded, and the qualifiers. So if there's any questions, we're asking for approval on this report.
All right, questions from the committee. Supervisor Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for this report, Andrea. And, you know, it shows a good cross-section, not much from the west, but if you wish to comment on that, but I also wanted to ask you, do you have a sense of what the vibe is in the business community about this program? Is there still a lot of interest?
Oh, yeah. I think, in previous years, we usually have most of the funds approved out by Q1. So it does seem, a little bit down for this year. I can't really explain why. We usually do get a good variety of approvals throughout the county as well. I know that there has been some focus on some new programs for downtown Racine grant programs that are going on right now. So, just trying to fill the vacancies down there. That's something that we've been administering out. So there's a little bit of focus there, but just not as many applications so far. But I'm not worried at all. I'm confident that they'll probably go. So.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Supervisor Spencer.
Thank you. Remind me, sometimes, like, I've seen some of these names before.
Mhm.
Is there a period of time that they have to wait to resubmit for
So
these? Or
we do award businesses for, it could be a number of years, but the max is 15,000. So the max would be 5,000 per year. And so it could be 3 years, but it could be more if they don't max the 5,000 each year. Because sometimes businesses don't have $10,000 to spend out since it's a 50% reimbursement. So we give them, time until they reach that $15,000 threshold. But then we don't have anything set in place currently. Once they hit that $15,000 max, when they would be able to apply again for the program. So, I don't know,
Good to
maybe
know.
something
Thank
to
you.
think about.
Andrea, just got one other question, just a follow-up in regards to the carryover. Is that kind of the normalcy if we don't find the suitable businesses to award the grants? Do we just carry the money forward? And if so, how much have we carried over, just out of curiosity, over the past couple of years?
So, year before, we expended out most of the funds. I think the carryover was 3,000. This past year, 10,000. And that happens because the businesses will be awarded, let's say $5,000, and then they don't end up expending the 10,000. Maybe they only take 3,000 with that. So that leaves money left over. I try to keep on them to say, okay, are you gonna use the rest of this money? Maybe we can allocate to another applicant who is not approved, but somehow the timing just doesn't happen, so.
Okay, and that was kind of my follow-up to that too, that if there's another, if they're not taking advantage of the money that's available to them, if there's another way to allocate that money.
Yep.
But thank you. That's.
So I do try that. Mhm.
Any other questions? Supervisor Shakur.
Hey, Mr. Chairman, thank you for my presentation.
There we go.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for your fine presentation. Question I have is, we've added the veteran-owned businesses as eligible. I didn't hear you say, did any of them get involved in this at all?
Yep, so the two that we
Min-
have approved, we do have two veteran-owned
Okay.
approved so far this year. And those businesses are Lavaggio Enterprises, which is Lavaggio Express Laundromat, located in Mount Pleasant. And then the other one is Sweet Soul, which is a food truck, also located in Mount Pleasant.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions, comments? Thank you, Andrea, for the presentation and the report. And if I would ask Gwen if we could forward this to the county board? Pardon me?
I will move that we accept the report.
All right, so the report's been accepted and seconded, and then will be moved to the county board for our next meeting, a vote. For the exception of the report. So the motion seconded, we'll call the question for the approval of the report. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, and then now we will forward that on to county board.
Thank you. One last comment. The RCEDC annual meeting is tomorrow night, so hope to see you all there.
All right, item number 7 is Director Zimmer for the Racine County 2026 first quarter investment report from PTMA Investments.
Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to introduce Brian Hextall with PTMA, their investment advisors. I think you're in your 3rd year as our investment, if I remember right. And we have added additional portfolios here as we've bonded for these large capital projects. We don't need all the funds right up front. So PTMA is able to put them in a short-term portfolio, so we're able to draw more easily, but also earn interest on it. So he'll be able to speak on that.
All right, welcome. Thank you.
All right. Good being here this evening and seeing you all. So if we could move ahead to slide 4. Realize it's a full agenda here, and Krista has been keeping Gwen and you all busy with these new accounts talking about. So just very briefly, I think it's, I'm just hearing an echo. Hopefully it's not bothering you all. I just think it's always important to speak first to, if we can go one slide ahead, to what's happening in the market, as that does have an impact on what performance over the period has been looking backwards, and then also looking forwards, what we're doing to position the portfolio to do best for the county. So, clearly the news of since we've all last met is the developments in the Middle East. Fortunately, those have become more positive here in recent weeks. Certainly today, the news is more positive, but as always, I think we take a very prudent approach to these things and recognize that the situation is fluid and can continue to evolve. So our focus is always on safety, on liquidity, and then thinking about returns. That's the lens that we're watching all of this through. And good to see oil prices come down a little bit today. Still quite high, still pressure at the pumps. There's direct and indirect inflation pressures that did increase rates during the period. So we'll see that in the return picture. And, if that is sustained for a long period of time, that could start to impact spending in other areas in a more meaningful way. So these are the things that we're watching. Again, it's good to see the news getting better, but it's still something to watch closely. On the next slide, we've emphasized this for quite a while, but the consumer does remain resilient in general. An employed consumer is a spending consumer here in the US. Unemployment remains quite low at 4.3%. I would say delinquency rates for credit cards and autos have normalized, but if you look at the far right side of that chart, it is actually bending downward. So as a percentage, less loans that are past due. So the consumer continues to hang in there quite well, despite this sort of no hire, no fire situation that remains in the employment market. One more slide or two on the economy. Inflation, clearly a big increase in March, 3.3%. Gas prices were up about 20%. That was the large driver. Once again, I think the Fed, the markets can look through these sorts of shocks to the market. Clearly we've seen the stock market continue to move up. There's not a lot of concern from a pure markets perspective at this point, but definitely watching it. We know the new Fed chair, the likely new Fed chair, Kevin Warsh, certainly has a hawkish history in terms of wanting to fight inflation. So it'll be an interesting, first several meetings for him. We'll be listening closely to his remarks for sure. But what I'm talking about right here, I mean, I think these will be many of the things that are talked about in that room. More slide here, I guess, real quickly. Corporate fundamentals, strong position. Balance sheets are strong. Corporate earnings are coming through well. It is broad. It's more than just the kind of the AI technology story. Certainly that's a positive story, but good earnings for companies. So as we're investing for the county, good solid investments we believe in. So one more, sorry, I have a little more here than I thought from usual. Looking forward here, we still do think it's a Fed that's biased to cut interest rates. The dot plots would indicate that. That's the projections that the Fed provides. Wouldn't be surprised if those projections go away under the new Fed chair. We'll see. Volatility probably stays in the market. At the end, though, again, we're fundamental investors. The fundamentals look good, whether you're looking at the employed consumer, strong corporate picture. Markets are performing well. So that's kind of where we sit, and we think that continues for markets. So maybe I'll pause just real briefly for any questions before speaking to the portfolio. Okay. So taking a look, I'll probably spend most of my time thinking about or speaking to the operating reserves portfolio here. We'll move very quickly through the next several portfolios. So what changed since last time we met? Over the last couple of months, we did reduce somewhat our allocation to mortgage-backed securities. That's been a sector that's performed very, very well over the 2 years that we've been managing the portfolio. It still is the largest segment of the portfolio, and I suspect it'll remain the largest segment of the portfolio. But where we were seeing value here this calendar year has been in this asset-backed security space. That's going to generally be backed by credit card loans, auto loans. Once again, the consumer looking really good, delinquency rates looking good. We think that's a good, healthy place to be investing for the county. Overall, the portfolio yielding about 4.25%, some 37 basis points over our benchmark. So as opposed to only investing in treasury securities, this highly quality, well-diversified portfolio helping earn, almost, a little less than 0.5%, we'll call it, an additional yield. And to the next slide, duration. Once again, this is the longer of the portfolios. It's managed to a 1 to 5 year benchmark. So a lot of those maturities kind of right in the middle of that 1 to 5 years, sort of in that 2 to 4 year range, as you can see on the bar chart. And then one more slide. Thank you for the quick flipping here. But taking a look at reserves over the past 2+ years here, looking really good with trailing year returns of almost 5%, well above the money market fund yields right now, which are around 3.5%. As I indicated before, interest rates did move up in the month of March. That did push the returns on prices basically down a little bit. But, even baking that in to still have the trailing 12 months that we've had, really, really good for bond investors. And for what it's worth, April was a positive month. We just didn't get a chance to get that included here for the timing of the reports. As promised, I'm going to go even quicker, unless certainly there are questions, through these next, I think, 4 portfolios. ARPA, about a $4 million portfolio, spending down. We do have some very short treasury and corporate securities, as Gwen alluded to, just making sure that we are maximizing interest on those securities while we're holding them. A yield in this portfolio of about 3.7%. You'll see a very similar story on the next several slides. So the next slide, very short. We can move one more. Taking a look at returns, we only got, returns here are over the past year about 4%. So a little bit less than the longer term portfolio, but that is what you'd expect. Since inception, about 4.5%. So looking very good. And now we'll go through those 3 new bond accounts that Kristen has been working with Gwen and the county on. The 2025B, we got started investing here in November. This is about $24 million. Once again, mostly US Treasuries, some corporate securities. All of these maturities actually happening this year with a yield in the portfolio of about 3.8. So once again, above some of those money market yields that you're seeing in the market. Next slide. You can see the very short-term nature. All of those bar charts are under a year. And I think we might have one more on returns. Yep. So, not even a full year here. So kind of hard to get that apples to apples comparison, but 1% over the last 3 or 4 months, kind of on pace for those same 3 or 4% type returns. 2025C, just trying to be thorough here for the county. Very similar portfolio size about 7.5 million. Once again, treasuries, corporates, yield of about 3.8%. The next slide is going to still show all of those maturities this year. I think this portfolio has 1 or 2 maturities that go into January of 27. In the next slide, again, only started to invest last November. So around a little over 1% of returns so far. Those are not annualized returns, so it's just for the portion of the year. And then finally, the newest portfolio, 2026A. This is about a $20 million portfolio. We just started investing in the middle of March. Once again, maturities through this year and into January, and a yield of about 3.8%. So that was the quick move through those slides. I didn't mean to rush, and certainly want to take one more moment for any questions that you might have.
Questions from the committee? Supervisor Trotter.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Brian, for the presentation. I'm a big favor of the mortgage-backed securities. You and I spoke about that. I'm just curious, why do we shift some of our portfolio and investment from the mortgage-backed securities to the treasuries? Do you know?
I would say 2 things. One is the strong performance that we've seen on those mortgages. The valuations were looking good and probably to a point where they're starting to get expensive to be buying. We were seeing better value in the asset-backed securities. So it's not as though we're selling them or anything, but as cash is coming in, we're favoring another sector here. So
And the yields are still better on the mortgage-backed securities, though, compared to.
It's also the longest if you're looking kind of on the securities that we're showing there. The curve has normalized, so the longer we're investing, the higher yield. So if we were we like the mortgages for those longer term investments to the extent that we're buying some shorter stuff. Some other sectors look more attractive.
Okay, thank you.
Supervisor Miller. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Supervisor Shakur.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a quick question on 711, page 711, the PTMA market outlook. You got listed here that the balance sheets and earnings remain healthy overall. Would you happen to know why?
I think it really boils down to the consumer by and large, and people are still spending. We're buying services, we're buying goods, and that is generating generally good earnings for most of, the large corporations. I mean, that's a very brief response, but I think that's really what it ultimately comes down to is people continue to spend money, companies tend to do better.
Interesting. Thanks.
Supervisor Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Obviously, this money belongs to the people of Racine County, and I'm very happy that we can report that you all are getting some very good returns for our constituents. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Brian, I have just one follow-up. Are you seeing a change in people's, following up the Supervisor Trier said, are you seeing a change in focus on where people are investing with the volatility of the fuel market and then the war that's going on? Are you seeing people changing their approaches as far as long-term investing?
Um, What I would say to that is that it's very high quality investors, and that's what the county is, can only buy under state statute and the county's investment policy, the very highest quality of investments. Sometimes when there's a little bit of volatility in the market and spreads can widen out a little bit, that can create some opportunities. So I think we have looked at this as a way to make some repositioning and, pick up some yield, maybe in a sector that wasn't yielding as much before. So I would call that more tactical. I think it takes time for public entities to make the big strategic decisions. I think there is increasingly a move, though, probably not related so much to the volatility that we've seen recently, but to the normalization where longer term yields are higher than short term yields. We're seeing more and more municipalities across Wisconsin and honestly across the country that are taking notice and saying it's time to start investing out longer.
All right, thank you. All right, seeing no other questions, thank you very much. And if we can forward this off to the county board, that'd be appreciated. Thank you very much.
Have a good evening. Thank you.
All right, item number 8 is the county executive giving us an update on the WWBIC or WIBIC loan. This is for information only.
Chairman, I'll give a brief introduction here. I put the county executive's name on this because I didn't know who really should own this item, but this is considered a cultural grant, which was under the county executive's budget previously. WIBIC is similar to the RCEDC where they're doing economic development and loans for businesses. We had originally given them a loan approved by this board in 2015, which they paid off in 2025. They requested another loan in the summer of 2025. And so this is the update to that loan. And they have a presentation, which I didn't get until earlier this week. So we'll get it on the website and get it sent out to you guys as well.
All right, well, thank you. Welcome.
Great, thank you, thank you. So this is kind of going to be an overview. I don't want to assume that everyone knows about WIBIC, and then we'll give you an update on, the loans too. I also have with me today, I don't know if everyone has met, I don't think. Mike Hetzel is our Director of Lending, and then Todd Shalinsky is our loan officer for the Southeast region. So they are our lending gurus and can answer any of your questions specific to lending. So you can go ahead and there we go. So of course, WIBIC is a nonprofit organization, been around since 1987. You can see that we're largely funded by the SBA, Small Business Administration, then also other federal funding as well as state and then local entities, private investors and funders. I should mention that we are a CDFI. Wouldn't want to not do that. Community Development Financial Institution, and we take that designation very seriously. Next slide. Those of you who have known us for a while,
I love our new logo. We had the same logo with the green doors that opened for the longest time, and did a rebrand this past year. And so really, this is kind of an interconnecting circle. And the reason I wanted to make sure we shared this today is to make sure that in addition to our lending programs, that you know that anyone that taps into our resources is also getting access to financial wellness training and resources, obviously our entrepreneurial trainings, which include in-person as well as online virtual trainings, of course, business planning, and then also our coaching and one-on-one technical assistance. So remembering that every loan client at WIBIC receives that one-on-one small business consultant who stays with them through the life of their loan. This just goes a little bit deeper into really what those pillars are. So you can see the access to capital, serving clients, governance, and then of course, culture. And this is really where we're focused on our strategic plan as we grow WIBIC and look at us as a statewide organization. Okay. Don't think you all need to see this map, but just pointing out that we, fully understand that this loan fund is for Racine County. One of the things that we're really focused on as we move forward is, I just had a meeting with our marketing department, and we have a great team, and really focusing on some specific social media as well as the good old fashioned flyers and email marketing to make sure that we're reaching all corners of Racine County. So this just kind of points out really our impact over a 10-year period of time in Racine County. So when you look at that, almost 90 loan closed, just over $5 million in lending, 547 businesses strengthened or expanded, over 200 jobs, full-time employment, over 2,000 clients served. And then, of course, as a CDFI, it's important for us to make certain that we're reaching our LMI clients as well. I'm not going to go over the whole Southeast region, but if you look at the under the WIBIC side where it says, in the WIBIC Southeast region, and if you look down where it says since 1987, WIBIC has served, I think it's important to demonstrate that impact and share it. So just under 80,000 individuals in the state of Wisconsin, and Mike and Todd can talk more and answer questions, but 130 million to small business owners. Again, our loan size goes up to 350,000 now, but back
average loan's 42,000.
yeah. So we're still in that micro range. So when you think about 130 million, it's a lot. Created and retained, just under 17,000 jobs, and 11,336 businesses started, strengthened, or expanded. So we're really proud of those numbers, and of course, always looking to improve on the next 10 years, right? I wanted to make sure I shared this story because this is an example of a business owner that just opened not that long ago in Racine County. She's in Mount Pleasant. And I don't know if anyone has been to, and I always say it not correctly, but Manja Pain. And really amazing. If you've not been there, you got to make a point of stopping in. But her story is really great, and I think it really demonstrates how someone can come into WIBIC and move through our process. So she was actually referred by RCDC. She went through the BizStart program at Gateway. Still needed some further assistance with her business plan, so took our 9-week business plan series. Worked with Angela Downs, who's one of our outreach specialists, really prepared for that loan, received a loan, launched her business, and now will continue to receive that small business consultant one-on-one mentorship through the life of her loan. That's another success story in Racine County. there's the whole big team there. Yeah. So just wanted to share a little bit. So going back to Dana at Manja Payne, I walked into the Racine office today and Todd and Angela were meeting with a potential new loan client, and she's from the Racine area, Racine County. And I just wanted to share that because that's really how that process starts. So she's a current small business owner looking to grow and expand. So they were meeting with her, talking about her business plan and her growth strategies, and hopefully getting her into that loan pipeline and moving her through that process. And that's exactly how Dana had started with us. So just wanted to make sure I'm sharing that full circle of our staff.
Excellent. I'd just like to, I think you can hear me. I would just like. Okay. Hello, everybody. So I would just like to emphasize the coaching part of what we do at WIBEX. So, we'll do a loan. Again, loans go up to $350,000. We also use SBA guarantees for our loans. And then we always use revolving loan funds too that we have taken advantage of here with, your generosity with our latest revolving loan that we're doing with you guys. But, we look at these folks and go, okay, for the most part, you're startups. 60–70% of our clients are startup businesses. We have to make sure the business plan makes sense. And then we have to reinforce that because so many of these people are great artisans at what they do, but they've never owned a business before. So they need to understand what it's like to be accountable to their financials first and foremost, because they don't make the right choices. They don't make any money. They don't make any money. They don't pay the bills. So we assign a business coach that, that Heather referred to, and that business coach will meet with them 2 or 3 times a year, and they'll ask for financials, and they'll have the accountant prepared financials there. And, we'll compare those to what they said they were going to do with their projections to give them an idea of, okay, this is how we approved your loan. Now, how are you doing against what you said you were going to do? And it opens many eyes at many times. Maybe their costs are too high. Maybe their expenses are too high. Maybe they're not generating enough revenues because maybe they're not open enough. So, there's all kinds of things that you can sell. It's kind of like going to the doctor for your annual physical. So, that business coaching part of what we do is many times like the secret sauce involved with these folks. And, we have quite a good track record of payback over the number of years. And people actually, we're the alternative to the banks out there if the banks can't do a loan. And so many of our customers that are bankable come back to us and say, oh man, I paid off my loan. I want to do another one with you. When we're looking at them, they're bankable. So we said, okay, now you go back to the bank. So go back to whatever bank you are. And 90% of the time they can get financing in a bank now. So our job is to kind of graduate them back to the banking world again, revolve the money back in, and then lend it out to other folks who are startups, or maybe people who can't get traditional financing because life happened to them. Maybe their credit score went down too much or whatever, but we're kind of like the repair shop. So we're like an incubator, except we lend money. Todd, would you like to add?
No, I guess I did. The only thing, go ahead.
You have to use the mic.
No, I guess the only thing I would like to add is, in regards to the fund that we have with you, we are really serious in getting the word out that we have this money to lend. We work a lot with other bankers, other lenders, letting them know, because that's our referral source. That's where we get our loans from, other than people who hear about us from other people. But that's generally how we get a lot of our business, and we make them aware of this fund. And everyone, the coaches, everyone that deals with our customers, the trainers, we're sure that we want to make sure that they know that this fund's out there. We have it to lend. And what's so great about it, which is really the interest rate for the people that we give money to. So just wanted to make a point of that.
And we are also keeping the interest rate at 5% for the fund. Up to $35,000, it's $125,000 we have. So that's 4 to 5 loans that we're going to be able to get out the door. Maybe more if they don't need quite that much. But we pair those with other loans. So let's say we'll do an SBA 7A loan for like $100,000, and kind of similar to what we did with Manja Payne. We gave her a larger 7A loan, and then we coupled it with some other money that we had and gave her another small loan. because she needed a little bit extra working capital at the end. But we try to pair these and package these things together as kind of an additive to really give them enough working capital, because as you know, with the business, if you don't have enough working capital, you're kind of stuck in the mud. Does anyone have any questions for us?
Questions from the committee? Comments? Supervisor Spencer?
Thank you. I really appreciate hearing about what you do and getting the update. Where are you located? Are you in Madison or where?
So we're a statewide organization, but we do have offices in downtown Racine. And then, so we're right on Main Street.
Okay.
We're connected to the Divino Gelato.
Okay,
Yeah, I'm like, can't function without coffee. So right on Main Street. And then our outreach specialists and our small business consultants and our loan officers too are really out in the community. So really, we really go to our clients.
good, good. I worked in that building many years ago. Where is Manjapane located?
Right next to TJ Maxx in that strip
Okay.
mall, right between TJ Maxx and the dog store.
So she's got a storefront.
Yep, storefront, has a nice little shop there. Italian deli, Italian food, nice Italian wine. So it's really a nice place.
Good to
Yeah.
know. Good to
Yeah.
know. One other question I had. Oh, just what are LMI clients?
Low to moderate income
Okay, thank you.
individuals that qualify under that state guideline.
Right, we use the HUD income tables for those.
Yeah.
To make sure that we're, because 60% of the clients that we serve need to be LMI if we're to maintain our CDFI status.
Gotcha. Thanks for your good work.
Thank you for supporting us.
Any other comments or questions? Well, thank you for coming tonight. Thank you for giving us the updates and thank you for being there for those people that need that extra help. So along with the money and the coaching that goes along with it.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you.
Chairman, would you like that report forwarded to the board?
Yes, thank you, Glenn. I was just gonna suggest that we forward that to the county board for the report. I'm sure they'll find that as interesting as we did. Thank you. Item number 9 brings us into the transfers. And the first one on the agenda tonight is Human Services. Don't see Director Otto here, but we have a stand-in. Welcome. So this is authorized and accepted, so the Greater Wisconsin Area Agency of Aging Resources grant for $100,000.
Yes, excuse me. So the 2025, the Racine County Meals on Wheels program began prioritizing, and this was primarily due to insufficient federal and state funding. We also had an increased need for services. So we began applying for grants to help meet this need, and we were given this gift of $100,000, which will greatly accept the Meals on Wheels program.
Questions from the committee?
Move to approve.
Second. A motion been made and seconded to approve. Any other discussion?
Mr. Chairman.
Comments? Mr. Supervisor Miller?
Thank you. Just very grateful for staff in pursuing this because this was a area of concern in the Health and Human Development Committee, and this will help a lot.
I do have one question. Based on the information that was presented, we were asking for 267,000 originally, and we were awarded 100,000. Are we in, how does that set us up as far as a position to offset that extra difference? I know that we've been being involved in Health and Human Development Committee. We've been looking for all other sources of funding for that. But does that still put us in a good spot or a good position, or are we still going to be, facing the shortfall in the Meals on Wheels?
We were awarded $20,000 from the United Way campaign. In addition, we still are searching for other ways to fundraise and accept more donations into the fund. But we still are in that prioritization model and in a delayed enrollment for our participants. So any additional funding that we can seek would greatly assist the program so that we do not go in a waitlist status.
Okay. And for the record, can I get your name, please?
Sure, so I'm sorry. Katie Hansen,
Right,
I'm
thank-
the assistant manager.
Okay, thank you, Katie.
Yes.
All right, so we have a motion and a second on the floor. Any other discussion? Not, we'll call the question. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, next up, we have the Sheriff's Office authorizing acceptance of Wisconsin Department of Administration State Violence Prevention Grant. Welcome.
Hi, good evening, everyone. So this is one of two grants we're going to talk to you about. I'm going to feed this thing back so quick. Just don't want it to squeal for you guys. Not this presentation yet, John. This grant was written after the second one we're going to present to you was awarded. It was due to us realizing that we had a backlog of evidence that we were having to process through. As you guys know, we have one forensic analyst that's assigned to our Internet Crimes Against Children unit. That forensic analyst, her name is Madeline Churches. She deserves a ton of praise. Not only does she process evidence for Internet Crimes Against Children, and as you can imagine, that is horrific evidence, stuff that nobody wants to see, violent, vile, awful stuff. But she also assists with our Metro Drug Unit. She assists with our Criminal Investigations Unit. And she assists with almost every violent crime that we have that affects Racine County. So she works in conjunction with both the city of Racine. She works with Mount Pleasant, Caledonia, Waterford, Burlington. Anybody who needs assistance, she'll always lean forward and help out with processing these devices so that we can get to the evidence that's within them that often is those text message exchanges, that is the communication setting up to commit whatever crime or admissions after the fact, right? This grant, should we accept it, will support us working through a backlog of over 100 plus devices. What it will provide for us in the $131,000, and I should put a little bit of a caveat on this one. This one's interesting. They awarded it to us and told us it had to be spent by December 31st of 2026. And it's a software hardware grant. So it puts us in a little bit of a trick bag in the fact that we want to get as much value as we can out of this, but there's not a lot of time to extract the value. Through negotiations with the company, we found a product that they have that does 60% of the work for us. It still takes human hands to finish 40% of the work, but basically it gives us 3 workers that do 60% of the work on 3 different devices, which will speed up and create efficiencies in our office. And we hope to be able to catch up our backlog before December 31st. The purchase that I'll bring to you after this is negotiated so that we get the hardware that's included. So it would be a tower that will run the software. We would get a kiosk type computer set up for an officer to be able to insert another device if need be. The software that it takes, plus on-site maintenance and installation so that we don't have to waste our time setting it up, so that we can continue the work and create the efficiency by accepting this grant. Best of all, it's a no-match grant, much like the next one I'm going to talk to you guys about. At the end of it, we keep the hardware, the service is terminated, and there's no extension or exposure to the county for ongoing services. So right now, what we're asking for is to accept this grant, and then the next step will be me coming back to spend the grant.
What's the committee's pleasure? Supervisor Wish.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The backlog of equipment, all phones or phones, computers,
Tablets, phones,
Tablets, you name
computers, communication
and
devices.
is there,
Yeah.
I get the time frame with, December of 26 coming up as far as whatever. But how old is the information on these?
It's still active investigations. We prioritize and triage what we're doing. So there's a constant prioritization and triaging going on. We're constantly taking more in, but what we're trying to do is catch up and close that backlog. So some of them are active investigations that could be a year old. But the majority, I can't speak to the actual depth. I'm sorry, I don't have that number, and I can get that and provide it to you. But it's a constant flow. You know, we're every day we're taking in new devices, and every day we're building more of a backlog. So the more we can do to try to close this gap, the better.
So how are you gonna are you gonna do first in, newest? Or are you gonna go back to the old ones and try to get those?
That
resolved?
again, it's going to be a triage process. So there will be some that come in that are going to have to be prioritized to the front, and then we're going to have to start working on when we have that time frame open for processing to bring in some of the older ones
Based on the severity of what they
based on the
issued?
severity of what we're looking at.
And
Correct.
who's determining that?
The investigations team. So the lieutenant from investigations, the captain of operations, and then the forensic unit. So they have conversations about what they're going to run, how they're going to handle their cases.
And so are we in jeopardy of losing that information on the older ones?
We're not. We do a lot to protect those.
Okay, and I guess I'm gonna hold my next question for the next ask. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Supervisor Miller.
yeah, I would move to send this to the county board for first reading, May 12th, and then have a comment.
Second. So a motion and seconded.
Um,
Supervisor Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So am I understanding that you are actually getting these two requests to work together or not?
So the two requests will work in the suite of software that we currently run to manage our forensic analysis.
Okay.
All of this will interwork with all of the other things. The trick about all of it, and we'll talk about it more on the next one, but the trick about the whole thing was to not create additional exposure. As you can imagine, with all of these software companies, what they want to do is sell you something that changes your pattern of work, that forces you into their hand, and then you're stuck having to buy it over and over. And I've come to you guys and asked you for plenty. Byron was giving me a hard time earlier because I feel like I'm the one that spends money often. But I want to make sure that what we are spending, we're getting the most value for the county, and we're not creating long-term exposure that we have to pay for over and over.
Mr. Chairman, just a follow-up. You know, I've been watching Captain Evans over quite a period of time now, and I appreciate his, I guess I would call it a business sense of, you know, trying to outsmart the businesses that are trying to hook us in to their own unique system. So I appreciate that.
Supervisor Wish.
So are we on C now? So I may ask questions regarding this one?
No, we're still on B.
Okay. I wait for C.
Supervisor Trotter.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Way to be on top of it. Thank you. Always ahead of the game. What I would like to see, I understand that there are reporting that has to be done with these grants.
Correct.
Too often in the past, I have not requested from this committee results of these grants. Okay? I am asking in the future, I think it's a quarterly request that you have to provide. Is it the state? It goes to the state, to the feds, I think.
Can I
Go ahead.
interrupt you for
Yeah,
a
go
quick second? I failed to introduce Emily Sabo. So I am the mouthpiece of this operation, but that is the extent of it, okay? So I have my smart people. I go to Gwen for a lot. I go to Byron for a lot. Emily is my grant writer. Emily works with data analytics, data performance and analytics. Emily, I go to and I say, hey, I saw this email come through with this grant looks amazing. I think it could work for this. And then she asks me a million questions. I spitball a whole bunch of stuff out. And then she comes back 3 months later and goes, hey, guess what? I got you that grant. So she has been incredible. And I think she deserves a lot of the praise that I think trickles my way that I probably don't deserve. It should be going to her. She's gotten all of our grants that I've brought the past several years, including the boat. I think we're over, working with Emily, I think I'm over 1.3 million in grants. So it's incredible.
Mr. Chairman, I withdraw my praise for Captain Evans and shift it to Emily.
Fair.
So you were about to say, Emily was about to say about the reporting of the grants.
Yes, you are correct that grants do require reporting.
Yeah.
Most grants require reporting. It does vary based on that grant specifically, if it's biannually, quarterly, monthly, et cetera. But there are reports that would be due for this grant.
Yeah, again, I'd like to promote success stories. So if we're getting these grants, let's find out the results of the grants, good or bad, hopefully good, and report them back to this committee quarterly or semi-annually, whatever the committee decides or the chairman decides. Okay, my request, because this sounds great. Thank you.
Let me add to that.
Director Zimmer, go ahead.
The county currently receives over $60 million of grants, and if I could estimate, there's probably 500 grants that we do quarterly reporting on. This is a small part of it. Human Services has a lot of it. I would just share caution on overwhelming the agenda with those kind of grant reports. And so I'm totally in favor of it. I would like to think strategically with the leadership on what that would look like. And then we might need to redact some information from these reports as well.
Okay. We can put that on the agenda for future. So we have a motion second in regards to accepting the grant of $131,600. Any other further discussion? If not, we'll call the question on letter B. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, that is taken care of. Now, Captain Evans, we'll move on to C in regards to a 3-year agreement with Cashoff Technology Corp.
Sure. So this is the same company. They're the government, the GSA vendor that sells for Celebrate. So this is one that I've talked to you guys in the past. We've already accepted the grant on this. Now I want to spend the money. So this is a little bit more of a mess. I've got a short presentation. It's not flashy, but it puts all the numbers in front of us so you guys can see how we got here and see if I can answer the questions that you guys might ask. I'm curious if I'm going to hit it. So we can go right to the next slide. This is the DOJ COPS micro grant. This one again was for violence prevention. It's to strengthen our ability to investigate and suppress violent crimes. Much like I talked about already, most of the violent crimes that we see nowadays do involve some sort of technology, whether that's somebody carrying a cell phone or they're text messaging or they're looking for someone to pick them up after they left somewhere. We do see that in almost all of our violent crimes. There is some technology nexus. The current budget, and so to the praise of the board, the current budget does give us the appropriate baseline tools. I'm not saying that we are not given the adequate tools. What we have works. We have opportunities to get things that are better that can get us ahead for a while, and we can review them. And that's where this comes in. So this grant enables us more advanced capabilities that improve speed, efficiency, and outcomes. When I was looking through this, if you go to the next slide, this was originally proposed with Celebrate Guardian and Pathfinder. Guardian would be very, very cool. It would be a whiz bang type tool. What that would do is allow my analyst who's located at the LEC to pull all the data off a device. She has to go through and process it, look for some pieces or flags of evidence, identify certain things, and then package it and send it to an investigator. Currently, we do that in a little bit more of an analog fashion. This would allow her to do it through the cloud. It's cool, but it changes our workflow so dramatically that at the end of the grant period, I'd have to come back and ask you guys, hey, I can't exist without this now. So now I got to keep spending money. And I said, I can't do that. What we're doing works. Our workflow's efficient. We aren't running into massive issues there. This would not give me a huge cost savings, not in our current environment. So I pivoted. We talked to the grant administrator. If you want to flip to the next slide. We talked to the grant administrator. We requested extensions. The grant administrator was excited about where we were going, which was Celebrate Pathfinder. We requested a 3-year extension. We got a 18-month extension. If I remember right, it gets us 2 years. So Celebrate Pathfinder, what it is, the best way I can describe it, and Emily's going to chuckle because we talked about whether or not to throw a photo in here, is the plate of spaghetti from the Disney movie with the 2 dogs. What is that? Lady and the Tramp, right? When you look at that plate of spaghetti and you see the one piece sticking out, you don't know where else it's connected until you start pulling on that piece of spaghetti, right? This technology looks at devices and takes those comparisons and says, hey, these people here have crosses. This is where they cross. So maybe I'm doing a case and I don't realize that myself and 4 other people are involved. We don't realize that, hey, we all have this one address that we all go to. We're all talking about the one address. We all frequented the one address. Maybe there's a clue there that the investigator should look into. This helps bring that to the surface quicker. So wondering how effective it was. I talked with the vendor. They referenced a now I'm not going to think of the term for it. Basically, a large conspiracy case out of Boston that involved dozens of parties. I talked to the investigators at Boston PD, and they told me that this took like dozens, if not hundreds of hours, and turned them into like 4 to 6 hours, based on what it was able to provide to them in the fashion it did. So the efficiencies that this creates is not to be undersold. The grant includes the money for the server tower. There's a server that runs this, so it's all locally hosted. This isn't going out online. It's not dumping into AI. This isn't getting pumped out to Chat GPT, right? This is happening on our system, in our server, in our building. It also comes with the licensing for it, which you can see at the bottom there. So if we go to the next slide. This is kind of the timeline. So May 14th to 25, the grant released. We didn't really get told about it until October 10th that we were awarded it. The holiday schedule had some impacts on us being able to get in front of the board to get the grant accepted. And then just some negotiations both with the grant administrator and the company that is selling this to us kind of slowed down some of our process, but I think we ended up in a really good spot. So if we go to the next slide. So why do we approve this? This right now it's pitched to you guys as a 3-year quote, right? And I told you that we got a 2-year extension. So my grant runs out currently in 2028, I believe it is. This quote takes us through 2029. So what I did is I had them set it up. If you look on the back of the quote, they set it up that we pay the first 2 years up front. That covers us till 3 months before the end of the grant period, which gives me time to take the success stories, go back to my grant administrator and request an extension. I got them to then give me year 3 at last year's negotiated price, and they hold it so that when I go back in year 3, which will be 4 years from the time I negotiated, I still get the price from back then, and I can take the remaining chunk of the grant to pay for the final year, if the administrator is willing to do it with us. If they're not, we can walk away from the whole thing. So this aligns with investigative realities of what we're facing. It allows us to get a product that has a no match grant. So we get to use a product for several years. We do not create or change how our investigations go. Everything's funded by the grant. There's no match. And at the end of it, we can turn it off and walk away, and we can continue to do investigations as we always have. This will create efficiencies. We will see some increases or some abilities to do things we haven't done before, but we can exist without it. So it's just leveraging the grant for a better environment for our investigators and for our ability to solve crime. If you want to go to the last slide. Here's my guesses. So I know that at the board, we always get asked if it's in the current 26 budget. No, it's not, because it's a grant. We didn't have it at that point. We do not expect future impacts to the county budget. There is no match. It will not support just the sheriff's office. We will lean forward again with this, like we do with all of our technologies. We lean forward to help any of our law enforcement partners in the county. And at the end of the grant, we can walk away. There's no residual period that we have to be worried about. And we did a lot of work. Gwen was after me to make sure that I got this one right. And I appreciate it, right? So that there's no exposure to the county outside of what the grant's paying for.
And if I could provide clarification, your first bullet point, it is included in the 26 budget.
I'm sorry.
No, this board authorized a resolution which amended the 26 budget to add the money in there.
I was wrong.
Questions? Supervisor Wish.
Okay, I'm confused here now, because you answered part of the question and now she's kind of refuted what you said regarding the budget. So this grant money was available in the budget? Or not?
This was not it's not in the proposed 2026 budget. They brought a resolution to this board to accept the funds and create the spending authority on resolution 25-65. So 2025-65. So the board approved it, which means the fiscal note amended the current budget. It is in the budget now as a revised item.
Okay, so my question is, the budget got rather, with the sheriff's department particularly, got rather tenuous. I don't know, there's another word for it, but I can't think of it right now. About where the money was being spent and how it was being spent. So I guess I got a multiple question here is, could this have been applied to something else in the current budget to help reduce something?
Not because we would have been supplanting at that point.
Not because what?
We would have been supplanting at that point. So our core budget is supporting those technologies that we know are essential to our operations. So they're already built into our budget. If we were to take this money to apply to that, we would have been supplanting what we already had. So my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, my understanding is we could not do that. So even in talking with my grant administrator, and we had a phenomenal conversation, her and her boss were both excited about what we were doing with this and some of the negotiations that went into it. I had mentioned that I would love to see the ability to write another grant and maybe do this again. And she goes, well, you're going to have to get creative because you can't use the same grant over and over to fund the same thing in grants like this.
And this grant wasn't available prior to the budget being discussed. Okay, you're agreeing with that, okay. All right, so that being said now, that kind of answered that, but that question is going to come up at the county board meeting, I guarantee it. Somebody's going to bring it up. The second question is, you answered and said that we can walk away from this. Well, it's kind of a self-defeating there, I think. Why would we want to walk away from it if it's going to solve the problem that you say it's going to solve? That makes sense.
Supervisor Wish, if you want to give me the money, I'll be happy to spend it.
Okay, but that makes, so do you have a plan going forward? I mean, let's supposing this doesn't work. We're back to square one with the system we currently have.
The system we currently have solves crimes. It's not looking for a needle in a haystack, but it's somewhat similar. We're having to sort through a lot. This specific software is going to help us sift those needles to the top. It's more efficient. So we can go backwards and we can use other stuff, but there's dozens of technologies that I see daily that I don't bring in front of this board because I look at them and say, what we're doing works, our efficiency is working, our manpower is being able to solve the things we need. We're seeing the closures, we're getting through. But when I have a grant that pops up that I say, hey, I can get this, first off, it's no match. I can utilize it in a way that's not going to affect us long term. I'm going to go after that and look for that money to be able to bring that to the county. If we have a massive boom here and all of a sudden the budget starts freeing up and you guys are telling me, hey, we want you to look for new things and new ways to improve, I got a list.
Okay, well, what concerns me is there's a back door out. Why
Not a backdoor out, there's an end of contract out. So we pay for 2 years up front, and at the end of those 2 years, we have an option for a third year. And at the end of the third year, because of what this technology is, it doesn't change our workflow. Therefore, we don't have to have it. It's a nice to have, not a need to have.
So why would you make a decision to drop it after the 2 years? What
Can't fund it.
What would cause that?
Can't fund it.
You already got the third year already built.
For after 2 years. That
Yeah.
would be on the grant administrator if I can't get the extension. So the grant administrator will have to give me one more 9-month extension in order for me to be able to reach the end of that third year. So if the grant administrator says, no, we're done, we're not going to give you the final extension, then I'm going to have to say, okay, we're done. Here we are at the end of 2 years. If the grant administrator will give me that final extension, which we have a verbal agreement to, we just don't have a written agreement to. We aren't allowed to do that until when can we request it?
Probably a year prior.
A year prior to the end of the grant. So then we can request that next extension and then we're going to be able to see if we can use up the rest of that.
So it's not a concern about the program itself, it's about the money in the.
Not
third
about the
year.
program. This is all about
Okay.
finance. Yep.
That's one. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
Sorry.
if I may put it in terms you guys are used to hearing, this is like a sunset. So when the money goes away, then the program or the service would go away.
Learning every day.
Supervisor Spencer.
Thanks. Well, you know me, I'm always concerned about privacy.
Sure.
And well, I guess I have a few questions, but one of them is when you see these devices and you learn things from these devices and it opens the door to new arrests, can you arrest based on that? Or, I mean, you need more than that, right?
Yes.
Okay,
It points to an investigation. And I guess to step back, no, none of these devices get done without consent or a warrant. It has to be by consent or by a warrant. So we would have to write a warrant, take it in front of the DA's office, take it in front of the judge, get the judge to sign it.
Okay.
Then we can process the device, or we have to physically explain to the person what we want to do and request consent for it. And that's been the standard for as long as we've done any forensic analysis of any electronics.
okay. And is this is broader than your forensics department? I'm assuming.
No.
It can be used, no?
So
Okay.
forensic analysis happens by our crime analyst. So it's our ICAC forensic analyst. She's the one that does all of the extraction of the data and then managing it. And then it's done by the individual investigators or assigned to specific cases. They work in conjunction with her.
Okay, so this focus is gonna be on your forensics,
Yes,
It's not
everything for both of these
broadly
grants.
across the sheriff's department.
No, both of these grants are specifically focused on the digital technology and our ability to be able to manage what we collect through warrant or consent.
And that'll be that way throughout the 3 years.
Absolutely.
Okay, and then what is the company name again? That, I know it was up there, but
Celebrite,
Celebrate,
Cellebrit.
Rite. Okay, and the program was not the premium, it was the
This one is called Pathfinder.
Pathfinder. Okay, I'm sure it's in here somewhere, but I couldn't find it. Okay, so I think I'm satisfied.
Supervisor Trotter. Supervisor Miller.
Mr. Chairman, I would move to send this to the county board for first reading, May 12th.
Second. So we have a motion and second to send this to county board. Any other discussion? Supervisor Shakur.
Thank you. Quick question. Now, this helps out in violent crime, right? Now, my question is, with 16, 17 municipalities, is there any area you can point at that's got the most crime? Municipality, district, or however you track it?
So this helps in the investigation of violent crimes. This isn't going to necessarily, it's not something I can point it at an area, if that's what you mean. Like, can I focus like on one district and say, we're going to use this to try to solve the crime in that district? This is more of after the fact investigatory technology. So as we're working through the investigation, this is going to allow us to get through it more efficiently. If that makes sense.
Okay, but this is about solving crimes. Right?
Absolutely.
So my question is, where is the biggest amount of crime in Racine County?
Sure. The city of Racine has a lot of crime, right? So we do partner with them and we would lean forward to help with any case they'd look for. Absolutely. And I talk with their DCs weekly.
Okay. And that's where you would, of course, put most of the resources if it's got an issue, right? I mean, you go wherever you can within the county to chop the legs off of it, so to speak.
Correct. If the opportunities are present for us to be able to utilize this technology in those investigations, we would absolutely lean forward to assist. Yes.
And I know there's a combination of what the issue is, unemployment, families not together and communities not working together. It's a combination. It's a collaborative effort by all means. And yeah, okay, that's good enough for now. Thank you.
Supervisor Spencer, you have another question?
Yeah, I just, I like what this can do. I like what, the potential here, but, can it be abused? Can it be used to hear conversations or learn about conversations, say, for instance, marijuana violations, and then used to target people? I mean, I'm just trying to be careful.
I don't think, so anything can be abused.
Yeah,
I mean, that's the unfortunate struggle of the profession that I chose, right? I walk around with a gun on my hip. Anything can be abused. So we do a lot to manage and oversee our people. We do a lot to make sure things are used appropriately and to make sure they're within guidelines. There are several legal hurdles that have to be gone through for people to even utilize this. Like I said, they have to go through the warrant process, which involves a lot of people just to get through that process alone. So there's a significant amount of oversight that goes into this. And then anything that comes out, if we were to find an unknown connection, and to your point, it's a marijuana connection, it would still have to go through a supervisor to start the investigation to chase that down. Marijuana is still illegal, but that's definitely not the purpose or goal of what the grant is targeting.
okay. Does it stay in the department or can it be shared with Kenosha?
The information, like, so
Yeah,
this is much like, I'm not sure I'm explaining this well. This is just a system that is analyzing the data that's been extracted from one device and the data that's been extracted from another and comparing what's in there.
connecting. All right.
Can we share it? Like, if Kenosha had a major crime that maybe a large group, could we work with them to help them be able to figure out what's going on and create some efficiencies for them? Absolutely, we could. And we join in a lot of investigations with our partners, just much like what they do with us. So yes, there is that possibility. But does that data, so I guess maybe to your, because you originally had said privacy concerns, the data that's housed within there is not exposed to everybody that's seeing it. The data that's housed within there is exposed to our forensic analyst. And as things bubble their way to the surface and we find those connections, we can specifically target what is the connection that we find valuable and then use investigative resources to go search out, is this leading to something? And really, this is leads development. This isn't necessarily going to say, aha, I found out that this is the bad thing that happened. It creates a lead that sends us a direction.
Thank you.
Supervisor Rossi.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Captain Evans. Something you said earlier, which I want to give you praise for, is that you mentioned, another version of software was going to potentially change the workflow so drastically that if you were to back out of that it would be we'll say cost or a substantial rework just to adjust back to what you're doing now. Your acknowledgement of that and then willingness to share that is amazing, because that is a concern that comes up with a lot of these softwares. We keep adding softwares, and then there's the concern that, well, you can't really back down to a system that once you forget how you did things before, there's a cost going back to the old ways. Thank you for that. I want to say that that type of honesty, and then this being a 2-year term, that's what makes me want to say yes to things like this. Putting a lot of faith in you to be able to secure more grants moving forward and other things, and keeping, both of you then, to help keep costs down. So, one last part to this too. Can you think of one software that you have backed out of in the last few years because the grant ceased?
I have not done a software grant until now. There was, I've done hardware grants. There was a statement with one of the grants last year when I was in front of the whole board where I said, this is free money. And I believe Supervisor Shakur said, this is incredibly simple. It's free money, take it. And somebody to my right, and I don't recall who, said, be careful, there's no such thing as free money. I will tell you, I understand it now. And I believe Emily is probably shaking her head. It is a lot of work to try to get the grant, to try to make the grant work, to have it not create problems that I'm gonna have to explain to you guys. And then to have to go through 3, 4, 5, 6 meetings to explain all the reasons why we want to do this. And I go, wow, that was a lot just to try to get a piece of something for a short amount of time. So I understand there is no such thing as free money. We put a lot of work in to get here. I hope that I don't have to back out of any grant ever because the administrator won't give it to me. I tend to be a little bit of a pest, so I'll be after them and see if we can make this work. Otherwise, I will try to pivot and find a way to capitalize in a different direction.
Thank you.
All right, we have a motion seconded. Any other discussion? If not, we'll call the question. In regards to the Crash Off Technology Corp. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Letter C is carried. All right, Sheriff's Department's up again for letter D in regards to the authorization to purchase 2 snowmobiles for the total of $15,000 and transfer funds within the 2026 capital budget. Captain Evans.
So we kind of stumbled across this one. As you guys know, we put a lot of work into our budget starting about now. We've already started looking at some of our stuff. For the past several years, probably as long as I've been a captain, we've been putting snowmobiles on the list. It's on our first pass for our capital. And by the time we get to second pass, snowmobiles are always chopped off. Our previous sleds were 2002 Polarises. They did last about 20 years. As you can imagine, a 20-year-old sled is no competition for what we could be dealing with when our trails are open. But as you know, our trails are not open all that frequently. So it's a struggle to try to say that we want you guys to spend money on something that we use a handful of times a year. But when we do use it, it's really important. I've already been on a call when I was a patrol deputy where I've had to hike a mile in deep snow out into a field to go help with first aid on somebody who got significantly injured crashing into a tree because they were drunk. That is not a fun night, no matter how well you're dressed. It is not fun hiking through that snow. And thank God our snowmobile community around here is nice and they gave me a ride back on one of their sleds. What we ended up finding last year, about 2 years ago, I'd heard that there was a vendor that was willing to lease snowmobiles to us. Last year, we looked into it. We found out that we could lease sleds from them. They had 2 old new stock, 2024 new stock, that they were willing to lease to us for $2,000. So we leased the 2 sleds. We put the lights on them, stickers on them. We really use them a couple times. They're great. GPS built in. They're whiz bang cool. They came back to us when we got to the end of our lease term. We were going to turn them back in, start looking at taking the lights and the stickers and all that stuff off. They said, hey, are you sure you don't want to buy them? We'll make you a heck of a deal. So those sleds, originally the MSRP was $17,599 on them. So it'd been about $35,000 and change if we had bought both of them at the original MSRP. The used price after we had used them for a year drops them down to about 14 each, which is 28,000. They came back and said, we'll do it for 15 for both of them. So 7,500 a piece. They're giving us a screaming deal. I think it's going to get us something similar-ish to what we got out of the lifespan of the last sleds. As you guys all know, things have changed with how things are being built. They're more disposable now. I don't know that we'll see 20 years out of them. I'm guessing right now 15 is somewhat reasonable. I had talked to somebody else recently. They asked me the cost of what the maintenance is like on them. We're looking at about $500 to $600 a year in maintenance on average. Thank God we have some really phenomenal fleet mechanics, and they do a lot of our maintenance in-house, even on our specialty vehicles. So overall, it puts us in a good position. It was a great opportunity. I didn't want to pass it up. Wanted to bring it to you guys for a decision.
Supervisor Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move to send this to the county board for first reading, May 12th.
We got a first and second in regards to the authorization for $15,000 for 2 snowmobiles. Any other discussion? Supervisor Rossi.
Thank you, Chairman. Question, you said that at the end of the lease term, you were going to essentially decommission the vehicles, take the equipment off of them?
To give them back, yep.
So there's nothing budgeted this year to have snowmobiles, no lease provisions?
No, we were able to absorb that into one of our budget lines, which that allowed us to continue operations without having to ask for the purchase of new sleds. The old ones were shot.
But maybe I'm misunderstanding something. So the goal this year was just to not have snowmobiles? For the
We already,
2026 budget?
we did lease them. It was a 1-year lease. So we leased them for 1 year and then we'd have to give them back. And that's what turned into then this deal.
Well, I'm just curious then why wouldn't the lease or the lease or purchasing these be some part of the plan that was included in the 2026 budget?
Because the lease was a 1-year term, it wasn't part of the budget. We were able to put that, just roll it in with our fleet. So at $2,000, we could find the money to say, okay, we're just going to do this. We'll make it work. And due to it being a 1-year term, it wasn't a multi-year cost. So our statement back to the vendor, when there was originally a conversation, was, we'll just bring them back to you. And then the conversation ensued and he came back with a deal far better. And to his credit, this was not my negotiation. This wasn't me beating him up. This was really them leaning forward to help us out.
Thank you.
Thank you, Captain Evans. I think that's just from being an outdoor enthusiast as I am with purchasing snowmobiles and ATVs, and the cost that we can save the county here with these two machines is unreal. I mean, more times than not, you're going to be close to $20,000 into the newer snowmobiles that are out there today. And that's what we're going to be after, those type of people that are on those new machines. So I think this is a way to save the county some money and still put us in a good position when we have those trails open.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we got a motion and seconded. Any other discussion? I'll call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Letter D is passed. Thank you. Next up is letter C in regards to the Finance Department. Director Zimmer, authorizing transfer funds within the Human Services Department, Public Works, Development Services, Department Capital Funds, and various departments to the general fund to close the 2025 year 2026 resolution.
Thank you, Chairman. Before I kick it over to our budget manager, Byron, just wanted to give a little overview, especially as we've got some newer supervisors on the committee. This is a normal occurrence. We do it every year. We've been doing it every year. Supervisor Miller could probably attest to that. This is part of our audit field work in that we look at all of the departments, which is the budget authority as outlined in the ordinance, and figure out, did they go over, did they go under? We do a cleanup of it, and then anything that is left over of the budget is moved to the contingent org, also known as our reserves. And I'm happy to report that this is my 5th year as your director, and this is the 5th year that we've returned money to reserves. So very proud of the performance of our directors and our department heads in being good stewards of the money. So in order to get into more detail of it, I've got Byron here who can speak generally about some of the bullet points of what happened in the last fiscal year. And then if we have further questions, further need for detail, we can provide that later.
Byron, welcome.
Thank you. Byron Dean, Finance Department. As Gwen already introduced. She stole a lot of my thunder, but that's okay. She's good at that. But she left out some important parts too. As she said, there's 5.7 million that are going to be returned to the contingent funds overall for the county. The general fund had about a 3.94 favorable variance that was offset in part by some areas that didn't perform as well. A major driver of the general fund surplus was stronger than expected sales tax revenue. That contributed to about 3.1 million above budget. So additional positive variances came from operational efficiencies in public works and development services area, and personnel savings in the district attorney's office. The Human Services Fund also performed well, generating about 3.2 million in positive variances through different programs of theirs: youth and family services, aging, behavioral health, administrative savings, and more than expected WIMCR revenue. That's a Medicaid revenue. So these positive results helped to offset some challenging areas during the year, including Ridgewood post-closure costs, clerk of courts, reduced fee collections, and higher in-rem bad debt expense due to primarily to 10 donated properties to the city of Racine that weren't budgeted for. But overall, the year-end cleanup demonstrates a continued active financial monitoring and responsible management by department heads and directors and officials, elected officials, and it looks good for 2025.
Questions from the committee? Supervisor Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The one that caught my attention was the post-closure Ridgewood expense of $635,683. What was that?
So when Ridgewood closed, I wasn't here then, Gwen was, but we had to continue to pay for certain benefits, health insurance benefits for the people who had retired from Ridgewood. So those are the continued costs from that. Eventually they will dwindle as people age. But for now, we pick those costs up.
So is that just an open-ended budget line
Yeah.
as needed or as spent?
Yeah, there are reserves. I was just gonna pull up that account that are in from the sale, which you'll recall. We did not use any reserves in the budget, so those reserves are maintained, and then the cost of that those Ridgewood expenses fall to the levy essentially. We have $487,000 sitting in the reserves, which essentially would cover 1 year's worth of costs. And this board and the county executive chose to not use that money and instead use additional other funds to pay for those costs.
So I'm trying to remember if we had this last year as well.
We have had this since Ridgewood closed, but we have typically used at least partially reserves
Okay.
to cover it. We did not last year.
Thank you.
Supervisor Rossi.
Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to look at two sets of items, and we're gonna look at favorable variances first. There's two big ones that I'm trying to understand. Youth and family, commercial residential revenue, that was a $4 million positive variance. And then administrative agency management expense, it was a $7 million positive variance. What happens with those?
So human services, we'll answer that question the best we can. The human service fiscal manager wasn't able to make it tonight, but we'll try to fill in the best we can. And Gwen has a little bit of information too, so if she wants to jump in anytime, that would be great. But we have a note too from the director that I'm just looking at real quick.
Yeah, I can address the first one. That was the Youth Development Care Center bed rental to outside agencies. We have contracts with very many of the counties within the state to be able to reserve beds for them, and then we charge a fee obviously for it. So that was favorable for us. And then the administrative agency revenue is both WIMCR, which is reimbursement to make us whole for Medicaid related activities such as CCS, the Community Comprehensive Care Services, but also AMZO, which is administrative oversight. We're allowed to charge 15% to cover administrative costs, including salaries, finance, IT, building facilities, that kind of stuff to those grants. We aren't always able to go fully to the 15% if there isn't enough funding available for it, but we had a very favorable year here. And so that's basically just a direct reduction of the levy by being able to bill some of those expenses out.
We say bill the AMZO expenses out against grants, right? Grant funding or state aid. And Gwen was actually, she's humble, but she was one of the ones that helped develop the AMZO process, so.
But those two items alone are excellent. I mean, those are huge changes, and to me, those are main drivers of the net position that $3 million that's going into reserves. That's great. Is that 7 million though? Is that annualized, or is that, is there an offset where it's like 2 years ago we're getting trued up on something, or is this?
The WIMCR is an interesting beast that I don't know anyone who knows it in its entirety. It is not just a 1 year. There is definitely a look back on it, and it can go 18 months, 36 months. So a good majority of it will be for the previous year. So when you're looking at 25, it was for 24, but there's also probably a lot that came from prior periods before that. Our auditors assist us with this process, so we could probably get a better report on it. But when we say that, for instance, CCS positions are 100% covered, it means that we're expecting a reimbursement to come later for those costs.
All right. And last question. Thank you, Chairman. The biggest shortfall that I see is the foster home revenue, and then there's some other 2 million. There's 2 million in youth and family DSCOM I think that's prevention and access revenue. We just talk about those real quick so I can understand what that is.
I don't have the specifics of it. If you'd like, I can read Director Otto's statement made to this, or I can forward it to the board. At a high level, Human Services tries to build the budget as conservative as possible to make sure that we're prepared for every possibility of higher cost placements, which are largely out of the county's direct control. We can influence those outcomes, but we can't fully control when and how often those placements occur. That approach worked favorably this year. We saw significantly fewer and shorter residential placements in the youth and family area. On average, the number of children in the residential care decreased 68%, and new admissions to the out-of-home foster care dropped 28%. The reduction is a major reason why we came in under budget. Youth and family in and of itself came in under $3 million, which helped offset the $2.4 million overage in expenses at the juvenile detention center. Aging and behavioral health came in $700,000 under budget due to fewer institutional and residential placements, and then we received a higher than expected revenue in WIMCR. We planned conservatively, invested in prevention and community-based staff, and experienced lower than expected high-cost placements. So we were fortunate to end the year with a surplus. And I can forward that to the board as well.
Can I ask in this, where does the YDCC fall in? And maybe this isn't the appropriate time, Chairman. I to your judgment on this. Just, was the net position of the YDCC? I know bed rentals was a concern over the past 8-10 months. Do we understand based off of this where we ended up?
I do not have that detail, but I know that the director will be addressing the budget planning at the both last year's performance and the budget planning for the next year at the public hearing that the Health and Human Development Committee needs to present based on state statute. She invites you to that meeting on July 13th, and we can work with those directors. We have specific questions to get the information to you before second reading.
Thank you.
Yep, and we can follow up, make sure we get that information for you. Supervisor Trotter. Okay. All right, what is the committee's pleasure?
Mr. Chairman, I would move to send this to the county board for first reading, May 12th.
I will second that.
And then, Mr. Chairman, Director Zimmer mentioned, but I think it would be helpful anticipating full county board questions that that memo she just referred to, and she did say she would send it to the county board, but I think that's very important.
We got a motion and seconded. Any other discussion? If no other discussion, we'll call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we'll move letter C to the county board for May 12th.
That was E.
E, I'm sorry. I didn't even have my glasses on. E. All right, item number 10 is the finance department in Gwen Zimmer in regards to the Racine County Sales Tax Use Update Report. You should have that in your packet as well.
Would you like me to speak on that at all, Chairman?
Pardon me?
Would you like me to speak on it?
I'm
at
just
all?
wondering, yes, if there's anything like you just highlight or just basically.
Yep, basically, ordinance requires us to think of this monthly, and so when we get the DOR tax payment, that's when we send it out. I will call out that we are performing better than we originally expected, and Byron told me earlier that we've outperformed Kenosha County 4 out of 4 months so far.
Any questions for Director Zimmer on the sales tax report? All right, so this would be normally forwarded to the county board. All right, no other questions? Move on to item 11. So Director Zimmer, the Racine County 2026 first quarter accepted donations report, which is in our packet as well.
Yep, so quarterly, we report on all the donations that were accepted. And I will be looking at this process better because we're finding that we're getting like donated services, in particular for the canines, like the vet's offices are donating or giving a discount, which is considered a donation. So you'll start seeing in the coming months more items on this list that may not have a monetary value, but they're a donated service.
Any questions on this report? Seeing no questions, I'll ask this to be forwarded to the county board as well. Item number 12, from Director Zimmer in regards to Racine County 2026 first quarter grant applications report, and that is in our packet as well.
Thank you, Chairman. I did make an update to the process here, and you'll note that this, it used to just be that one single cover page with the grant, the dollar amount. We updated the process so that all the grant submissions, we get kind of a condensed cover sheet. So I included all of that detail there. I know that some of the supervisors will often have questions specifically about the grant, what the purpose is, the dates, that kind of stuff. I will just call out that you accepted the grant for the GWAR Major Gift Fund for the Meals on Wheels tonight, and the United Way grant last week, last meeting.
Any other questions for the director on these grants? All right, seeing none, we'll see if we can move this to the county board as well for information. Item number 13, Finance Department Director Zimmer in regards to UENA implement update. I believe that's our budget software.
Yeah,
update?
it's the budget and procurement software, and the county executive isn't here, but he asked us to give a brief update on the implementation of it based on how spirited the discussion was of this item a few months ago.
So just a super brief update. Again, Byron Dean, Finance Department. So the transition to UNA budget has been going really well. It's on target for a go live date of June 1st. We are meeting consistently, basically daily, with the UNA staff to basically configure and get everything set up correctly so we can put it to good use. So both the system setup and the initial data migration have been completed successfully. Over the past month, again, we've met on a daily basis, basically, with them. And we've had one large training. They're like 3-hour segments, and we're going to have like one per week for the rest of the month of May to go over the main modules to learn them better and to ask questions, and kind of like a hands-on training thing. Additional department level training will occur. This is going to be the first rolled out during the budget kickoff sessions early in June. With support from user guides and instruction materials that we provide to everyone. So in the coming weeks, they'll include continued user acceptance testing, getting the software ready for department use, and building out training materials for the departments. So that's just a quick update. Procurement side, we did start, we had the kickoff meeting just within the last week. We started first with budget, and now we're going to procurement, so they'll be going at the same time. So we're starting with contract management on the procurement side, and then we'll go into the RFP piece later on this year. So we're doing things concurrently, but things are going well. UNA has an excellent team that we're working with. They've been very responsive, very willing to work with us at a fast pace to get things ready to go.
Supervisor Miller.
Yeah, just a question. Do you guys like it?
Yeah, I like it very much. More so than what we shared originally with everyone. I think it's going to be really just help refine processes for us and keep everything in one place, and just be an excellent tool going forward for us to use.
The benefit of this is the company has been in business for over 30 years, and they have thousands of clients. So we only know what we know, and we're able to say, what are you seeing? What have you seen other clients do in this area? And it's helping us to revision some of our processing. Like we're going to change up how we do our capital a little bit, but so that it reports better into the system. And every time we talk to them, I think, oh, I didn't even think about that. We should do that differently, or that could solve this problem here. I think that coming to this committee in probably the coming months, I think we can use it to create fiscal notes. And so then we can just let it go through workflow. And once the county board approves it, we can just click post and we don't have to do all of this duplicate entry or update or revision. We just got all the positions in there so that we can do some really creative, once we come back for a union agreement, we'll be able to do some really creative projections with that. And working with the HR director, we ran probably 25 different proposals for the last deputy contract. I can do that all within the system and not have to do it manually. So we like it very much.
Any other questions? Supervisor Wish?
I know it's a little early, but can you foresee this program, cutting down on the amount at the end of the year budget transfers? Making us a little more accurate in our budget process?
Supervisor, budgeting, I think in its nature is it's not an exact science. So I would say probably not, because regardless, say everyone is a positive variance in the budget, we still need the transfers to send it to the contingent fund every year. So I don't foresee that. Maybe Gwen has a different opinion.
No, I think I would agree with that. By the time we're putting the budget together, it's July or August of the next year. And so we're 9 to 18 months away from when that budget was originally considered or put together by the department. So much can happen. A war in Iran could start and gas prices could go up. There's a lot of things that we just can't account for. And I think that it will give the departments better visibility into what's going on, because it will refresh with actual data, and they can do a lot of their own reporting and tracking of stuff better than they're able to do now with our current system. But I think at the end of the day, we will always have budget transfers.
So you don't think it will help the directors better?
I do think it will help. I mean, I think, yes, it will help the directors better. I will give you an example. The finance department is included in that budget transfer presented to you, because I had an employee who quit, went to a different organization and was let go, and now I'm paying their unemployment. I didn't know that was going to happen a year ago, and I didn't budget for it because it wasn't an anticipated cost, but legally I'm obligated to pay for it. So there will always be unexpected things like that.
I understand that. I just think that whatever we do, you do as a county, not necessarily you guys, but the department heads.
Yeah.
Hopefully it gives them more insight into better budgeting so that they don't have as many transfers at the end of the year. That would be the hope that I would like to see, but
yeah,
I understand it's like the sheriff's department.
Yeah.
You can't budget really over time because you never know, there are unexpected things. I get that part. But I would like to see an improvement so you're not having to transfer all these millions of dollars around at the end of the year. So.
Yeah, understand. The software does include some AI components that will be able to better look at like historical and trends to kind of come up with the projections, and maybe we can address budget transfer sooner than waiting for a year. And I think that there will definitely be some efficiencies gained.
Thank you.
Any other comments? All right. Thank you. Thank you, Byron. Item number 14 is a communication report referrals from the county board.
Mr. Chairman, I would move to receive and file.
All right, a motion made and second, receive and file. We will do that. Item number 15 is a staff report. I think the only thing that we have just to touch base on is Gwen's got a notice about the check register coming up.
Yeah, as we have some newer supervisors on the committee, I just wanted to remind that per the ordinance, this committee does need to approve all AP accounts payable items. So you will receive an email from our department, usually it comes from Rebecca, on Thursdays with a PDF of the check reports. And then we'll wait to hear from you. If we don't get any questions or, further instructions by Monday, then we'll release the checks and send them out into the print shop.
So watch for your emails on Thursday for the check reports.
I do have
Congratulations.
an ask, and I'm not sure if this is the time to ask, but I would like to know if we can get on an agenda or future agenda of the sheriff's department with an update on their boat and the Axios program on where they're at, on where they're progressing, because it's boating season is coming very quickly. And I don't know what's been.
Yeah, I will confirm that last week we reviewed the RFP for the boat and we had 4 bidders, if I remember right. I think the 5th one was disqualified for not completing all the information. So we met with Captain Evans and other leadership and we'll award to one of the bidders that met all of the requirements that we need and it is within budget. So we can definitely put that on an agenda. They will have more information because we have the award.
Okay.
Yep, and we signed the contract with Axon, so we can also include that on there as well.
Thanks.
All right, our next meeting is going to be May 20th here at 5 o'clock. There's no other business for this committee.
Move to adjourn.
All right.